Okay, so we will begin a new topic. Our topic is equilibrium of a particle. Now, what is equilibrium? So we have been dealing with the forces and moments and external loads and specifically mechanics. In case of a particle, so remember that the particle is an object without a geometry. It has only mass, but certainly there exists some external loads which can be applied to it. Indeed, there cannot be any moment, so barely we talk about sum of the forces then. So sum of the forces has to be equal to 0. So for equilibrium of a particle. Now we want to solve a problem, we want to design some tools. Of course, first thing that we need to do is to identify the external loads which are applied to an object. In order to do that, what we do is we draw a simple diagram which we call free body diagram, in fact. Okay, now what's a free body diagram? First we begin by drawing the object. In case of a particle, it is just a point. Then we draw the external loads. It can be a moment or it can be a force, but in case of a particle, it is just the force. So we have F1, F2, F3 and F4, for example, here in this example. So this is what we call free body diagram. Okay. Now we may have different types of problems, but in case of a planar forces or planar problems, so basically for two-dimensional problems, we have two equilibrium conditions. First is the sum of the forces in x direction has to be equal to 0. Now the second thing is sum of the forces in y direction. So this is y. Sorry. Okay, let me delete it. So we have sum of the forces in y direction has to be equal to 0. For a general problem in 3 dimensions, we have one more equilibrium condition. Certainly we have sum of the forces in x direction has to be equal to 0. Sum of the forces in y direction has to be equal to 0. And the third equilibrium equation is sum of the forces in z direction has to be equal to 0. Okay. So these are the equilibrium conditions, but what are the steps in solving a problem? Now, there are 2 steps indeed. So the first thing is the identifying the problem, so analyzing the problem. Therefore, we begin, in order to carefully analyze the problem and finding or developing a method for the solution, we first draw the free body diagram of the object or particle. In our case, so we draw all the external loads, forces and moments in general, and we begin by solving the problem by drawing the free body diagram. Indeed, we use mathematics in order to quantify the things. Therefore, next thing is to write the equilibrium equations.